Hey, hello, good morning, everyone. I welcome to the AWS User Group Malta. So, today we are going to talk about AWS security architecture with Zamira. So, let me add Zamira to the live. Hey, Zami,
Hi everyone. Hello everyone.
how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing great, and it's
Nice,
it's
nice
it's
to be
pleasure
here.
to
And
be. All right,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
nice to be here and talk about security today for
All right.
AWS User Group Malta. It's a really pleasure for me to be here today.
All right, yeah, we are also excited with you today. So I think the people are going to join. So we are streaming on the four channels today. One channel from AWS User Group Malta, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. My page. So I don't have the official page created in the LinkedIn. So once we have, so we can also stream in the LinkedIn User Group Malta page, but at the moment I'm streaming on my LinkedIn page, my account, my personal account of LinkedIn page. All right, so good morning everyone. So I hope you are doing great. Hey, Velisa here. Velisa.
Hey Melissa.
Welcome to the stream.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Join today.
Okay, great. So it's about me. So I am CTO of Azotech. I am AWS User Group Malta leader. So you can find me in Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So whenever you need me, you can also ping me. So my role is to help the customers to migrate their workloads to AWS cloud. So to help the customers to automate the infrastructure, etc. So it's usually whatever the solution architect will do for the infrastructure and the cloud services. So today we have AWS security architecture. So this is, so what are the best practices and what is the guide to when you are designing a security solutions on the AWS architecture. So today we have Zamira. So Zamira is going to talk about the session today on the security architecture of AWS. So this session is 100 and 200. So it can be, so if you are beginner, don't worry. If you are intermediate, don't worry. So you can have, so you are at the right place to understand the architecture of security services, right? So the session is, the agenda of today is to a guide of designing AWS security services. That is the main topic of today. And so we have Zamira. you can see on the screen. So let me introduce. Zamira is a community hero, and she is a solution architect and working as an enterprise solution architect Amazon Web Services in Amsterdam, Netherlands. So she is implementing AWS solutions and helping the customers with the digital transformation. She is having a lot of experience on implementing a critical and complex AWS solutions with the containers, serverless, data analytics for a small enterprise companies. So Zamira is also a founder of AWS Meetup Albania and co-organizer of AWS Meetup Netherlands. So she's a very good person because I worked with her closely in the past. So I know very well about Samira. She's a smart worker. She's more interested in working, automating and running some script, automating the environment, etc. and etc. And she's also regularly speaks in technical conferences. She writes some blogs on the Medium pages. Helps the community sharing the best practices and AWS experiences on the on LinkedIn page or Medium pages, etc. So I welcome again Zamira. Thank you very much and for giving your valuable time with AWS Azure Group Malta. And over to you.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. I really appreciate all of the time and looking forward to present today this security best practice. Let me share my screen.
Sure.
Um, all right. Uh,
Yes, you are here.
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Then I will skip presentation. You did a really great presentation for me, so I will not talk anymore about me. I will go directly to the topic to share with you today some security best practices, how you can start and to understand some of the best practices from security point of view. Um, all right, let's get started. I wanted to ask everyone if anyone had experience already with security or if they build some workloads at AWS based on security practices. But unfortunately, this is live events. We can't have this kind of interaction. However, if you
No,
have
no, no,
any,
no, 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 no.
please
We have also a chat is open. So the chat is open for everyone. So who are connected in any platform, Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, you can write
that's
whatever the questions you
excellent.
have.
Okay, that's excellent. Please, please ask any question you have about security. Okay, so let's get started. Before going, to the security at AWS, I want to share with you some. I want to share with you understanding of AWS AWS shared responsibility model. Security and compliance is shared responsibility between AWS and customers. At AWS responsibility security in the cloud of the cloud, sorry. That's mean AWS is responsible for protecting the infrastructure that runs all the services offering in the cloud. The infrastructure is composed by hardware, software, networking, and all the facility that run AWS cloud services. And from other side, customers' responsibility is security in the cloud. That's mean customer is responsible for all the configuration that's happening in the cloud when you deploy the infrastructure in AWS. Customer is responsible for configuration of security group, configuration of application, configuration of virtual VPC network. So all of these are responsible of the customer itself. So um, uh, that's all about, let's say, overview of the shared responsibility model. Now, I want to talk about the threat, why it's happening, why it's so hard to threat detection, not only in AWS, but everywhere you deploy your workload. Um, with this day we have more connection device. There is a situation that is a problem called dark dark data problem, where the people are collecting so much data across so many resources, and almost 80-90% of these data sets sometimes are not even used for analytics. They are just sitting there, just accumulating this morsel data, but really this kind of data are not used. So, but it again, producing large data set, large that need to be analyzed but not being analyzed, that's another concern that is really hard to do detection of threats in general. The second one is, from other hand, is alerting. You have so many resources, so many notification around, and so many alarms coming, which, and is sometimes is so complex and difficult, which one is the right notification for you, which one is notification for that threat, which one is false positive. And again, you have so many signals and so many noise, and you want to prioritize all of this noise. Sorry, I have a problem with my eye. I apologize for that. Let me grab just one a little bit water. Okay. And the third one is skill gaps. There is not enough headcount for people that we need to hire, and work on this mechanism and implement all of these responses mechanism is always difficult in finding and hearing and finding the people that can implement all of this mechanism. So this is why it's so hard to detect the threat today. Uh, but we talked about only so hard is detection, and we have so many security services at AWS. And you can see in these slides are a lot of security services and feature that we can use to now for identity and access management. We can use to detect the threats, we can use to protect the infrastructure, we can use for data protection, and in the end, it's always important how we are going to respond all of these threats, how we are going to have the notification in a real time, and how we are going to prioritize all of these alerts. So again, I'm not going to go over all of these services today because there are so many, but I want to highlight only some of them that are really important, that you can basically set up and are so easy, let's say, to configure and to protect your infrastructure, to detect all the threat, and also protect your data. Let me start with some services that are really important when you build your workload at AWS. When you start building your infrastructure at AWS, some of the threat detection are log data inputs. The first one is AWS CloudTrail. So just an overview of this service is basically the service that when you can track all the API, so the history of what you are going to do via AWS console, API, CDK, all the actions that happening in related to services and feature in AWS. For example, let's say you are going to create an EC2 instance. This track or this history or this action is going to be stored directly to AWS CloudTrail. So everything is tracked by AWS CloudTrail, and it's quite easy. You can just enable not in one region but in across region as well. Another service it's really important in AWS is VPC flow logs. VPC flow logs, what this does basically is monitoring all the traffic that is coming from your network interface in your VPC. So another way to look at is all the traffic hitting in your virtual private network, So the traffic that is coming in public subnet, in private subnet, to all layers that are part of this virtual private network. Another service is AWS Amazon CloudWatch. So probably you are almost familiar with these services. Is basically for monitoring and monitoring. You can store the logs. You can create the alerts in this service. It's a really good always to enable, let's say, monitoring when you can track all the logs of not only infrastructure but also application, database, and all layers. And the last one is DNS logs. DNS logs, basically this. Sorry, you can have, or you can track all the information that are going through past your VPC DNS resolver. So it can be find DNS logs, and sometimes also this can be found in GuardDuty. So these are all some of the threat detection only for logs. So how you can track, how you can store the logs, and you can do monitoring. You can analyze all of these logs to find some threats. All right. So let me go to some other service is Amazon GuardDuty and Amazon Massey are always services that are used at AWS for threat detection. Both of these services are based in machine learning. And just before explaining this, I want just to highlight something that I think it's really important is, monitoring the infrastructure and detect the threat is so important and critical in these days. To detect the threat and protect your workload in traditional way, you have to deploy additional software, security infrastructure, and you have to set up all of these accounts, then you have to monitor, and then you have to collect and analyze all of this data. Then basically when you have collected, remember what I said, when you have a lot of data, you have also to prioritize, and sometimes also are not analyze all of this data. So it's quite difficult to detect the threat. This is why we have this service at AWS that is called Amazon GuardDuty. So basically, this service is a threat detection service that continuously monitoring for malicious activity and unauthorized behavior, to protect your AWS accounts, to protect your workloads, and to protect also the data that are stored in Amazon S3 bucket. So what does mean? This service basically used machine learning in backend to find all of these detection threat. And what does really in backend is continuously scanning for this pattern, continuously scanning to find some threats that is coming from VPC flow logs that I explained it in the previous slide, that is coming from DNS logs, and also from CloudTrail. So all of this log you don't need really to enable. When you enable GuardDuty, you can GuardDuty analyze, automatically scan all of these logs for any malicious, and then create, let's say, some finding, prioritize all of this finding. The second service is Amazon Massey. Massey basically is a service that also is based in machine learning and is used to scan the data in your S3 bucket. So you are collecting a lot of data in S3, and you want to make sure, that this doesn't have any PII information. For all of you maybe that are not familiar with PII information, are personally identifiable information that we don't want to make it public. Probably we have a customer that we don't want to share this kind of data. We want to protect this data. We want to hide this data. But it's not only used for PII, but also in case you have some critical data that you want to hide, some or some really sensitive data, especially when you're working with finance. I have been working, with finance for a long time, and it's quite important that you protect all of these legacy and personal data. And this is why here it comes Amazon Messy. You can just enable, you can select the bucket that you want to protect. And all the data that are stored in this bucket, you can analyze, and you can scan this data. You can find, let's say, you can also create the customers rules in Messy in the way that you can identify some specific data that you want to analyze. Okay. How Amazon Guard Duty works in general. I want to go a little bit deep dive on these services, because it's quite important when you're talking about threat in general, and how Amazon Guard Duty is going to detect all of this threat. And as I explained it also in the previous slides, all the logs are coming from different data sources. So we have the logs that are coming from VPC flow logs. We have the logs that are coming from DNS logs, CloudTrail event, also S3 data events. And you don't even need to enable these logs, because when you enable Amazon Guard Duty, automatically all of these logs are coming to Guard Duty. So you are scanning continuously all of these logs in the backend that use always machine learning, and then all the findings are prioritized based on let's say based on how critical is this threat, or has a high priority, medium, or low priority. So Guard Duty automatically get all of these logs in the service as soon as you enable itself. So in case you want to go, for example, you want to analyze, VPC flow logs, and you are trying to find an IP that doesn't match with your infrastructure, and Guard Duty is going to check for this, let's say, IP that is not part, that you are not expecting to have this. And you know how it's happened trading in general. You can have a request from the same IP in thousands of seconds, or probably in 1 minute, and Guard Duty is able to detect all of this a problem. So how finding works in general, we have three kind of findings in Guard Duty. The first one is height, that you can see here in these slides with red color, and all the resources are compromised and actively being used for unauthorized purpose. So, and the second one is medium with yellow color. So basically, we are looking here for some activity that are from normally, observed behavior. And then the last one that is low is green. Basically, are not really, not, I would not say important, but you can see at least as a low priority when you are going to detect, and when you are going to receive the alerting. In this kind of finding, basically you have some malicious activity blocked before it going to compromise resources itself. For example, let's say you have a CloudWatch event and you have some alerts, and you are receiving the alerts in time. even someone is going to change these resources, or you are going, or something happening in AWS itself with services or feature itself. Okay. And something else also that I wanted to highlight, I really wanted to share this example, is how let's say looks like when guard duty find a thread that is coming from some data sources. In this example, it's, you can see in the first line, we have here an instance that it has a port 22 for SSH that is open. So basically, it's not best practices to open SSH even in your if your target EP is your IP address. I will always suggest to disable this port and use some managed session. That is another service on AWS that you can enable. You can just install the agent in the EC2 instance, and you can connect through this managed session in EC2 instance without having the key or without having the port open, because then I will explain a little bit later today how the threading works, and if you have any port open, especially when it's come to the word, it's quite easy for some people around there to enter to your infrastructure, and then they can do whatever they want. So you can see here the port 22 is open to everywhere, to the internet, and also guard duty detect this problem, this threat, let's say, and say, okay, this is really medium priority. You can see, you can check the SCL, you can check the security group, and how we are going also to do it, how is allow it. All right, I'm going now to other two services, if and we don't have any question from the audience. Is sorry, is
Hello,
Amazon?
Zami. We have a
Yeah,
question from one of the user. So the question is, what SIEM stack you use or prefer? So it is on the screen. You can also see the question on the screen.
sorry, I have my presentation, so I'm not able to see the screen.
Okay. So the question is, what SIEM stack you use or prefer? OSSIM, OSSEC.
I'm not familiar with this technology, so I'm not sure. I will check.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with SSA stacks.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay. You
just
can
to
proceed.
understand, is something, any kind of software that is in on-premise, or
All right. Go ahead, Zami.
okay, I will try to finish, and then I will come back later to the
Okay.
question.
Perfect.
Great.
Perfect.
So other two services that you can protect your infrastructure when you can protect your application is Amazon Inspector and Amazon WAF. How Amazon Inspector works and what it is. Amazon Inspector basically is threat assessment is important for security plan, and we have this service that is called Inspector in AWS that is designed to improve security for compliance application and services. You can automate AWS Inspector setting a range of roles on best practices or the most common vulnerability. And all of this assessment is measured monthly, daily, or weekly. So how it works in general, you can it's quite easy, to set up. You can go through the AWS console and you tell AWS inspector in which group of target you want to assess and how often, and the assessment will run on in schedule. You can provide the assessment in any stage, in dev, in UAT, production, so based on how many environments do you have. If you want to do host assessment in specific EC2 instance, you can install this inspector agent in the EC2 instance. For example, you can check for vulnerability software or other threats that is happening in this EC2 instance. But from other side, in case you want to check the network assessment, you want to evaluate this. So basically, it's not necessarily to install the agent itself in EC2 instance, but you can just enable this Amazon inspector, and automatically this is going to find some finding prioritized to all level of security, and is going to check the security group, how it's set up, is going to check the PPC, network interface, subnets, root table, elastic load balancer. So in this case, it's going to scan or to check all of these services, and you don't need to install any agent to anywhere. Only in case that you need to check the EC2 instance, you have to install the agent inside of the EC2 instance. And another service is WAF, that is web application firewall, that help you to protect your web application apps from common malicious that will affect your availability and security. And WAF basically is between external users and web application, and you're going to analyze all the traffic that happened between these layers. For example, you can enable traffic with application load balancer. You can enable a WAF with CloudFront in the way that you can check this traffic if something happened between your users and your web applications. All right, other two services that are really important for security is Amazon Detective and Amazon Shield Advanced. So are always these services used to protect your infrastructure and your application. Amazon Detective, probably it's not a common service used in AWS, but it's really, really important, let's say, to use, and how we are going to protect your application. This service make it easy to analyze, investigate, and quickly identify the root cause of the security finding or any suspicious activity. And this automatically collect all of this log data from your AWS resources that you have enabled, and use machine learning and help you to visualize and conduct faster and more efficient security investigation. For example, guard duty, I explained it before, you can find some threats, but you don't see in details what is happening, how is going on. Or from inspector, you can have all of these traps that happen in EC2 instance, but you don't have in details what is going on. So this is why Amazon Detective come here, that identify the root cause of the security finding. And for operation, it's really important to understand how you can, so where this coming from, how in details, you want to know in details in the way that you can protect the infrastructure in the future, and also protect your application. And Amazon Shield. So basically, there are two a way that you can do. It's AWS Shield normal that is automatically enabled to all AWS accounts. It's also AWS Shield Advanced. What is different? So Amazon AWS Shield Advanced is a managed distributed denial of service for DDoS protection service that that safeguards your application running on AWS. And this services provides always detection and automate inline mitigation that minimize application downtime and latency. So here is you don't need to engage any AWS support to benefits from DDoS protection. And as I explained, there are always two tiers: is standard and advanced. Standard is always enabled automatically in all AWS accounts, and if you want to protect for this DDoS protection, you can always enable a Shield Advanced. Yeah, before going just to the next slide, this is available globally service, so you don't need to do it in just one region, and is enabled with some other services at AWS like Amazon CloudFront, a global accelerator, Route 53, edge location. So you can enable these services and you can protect your application, your infrastructure. All right, some other threat detection service, and I think probably we have more services. We are done with all the services at security point of view. One is AWS Config, another one is CloudWatch Event. So AWS Config is it's really important when you set up a landing zone, especially in AWS, when you set up a security at AWS at the first place. This service track your resources configuration change. What does this mean? So let's say you have some security compliance at AWS when you set up the infrastructure, and let me give you just an example. You want to have an S3 bucket that should be always private, and because you have some sensitive data in this bucket, and you don't want this bucket to be public, and someone is going to change the configuration of this bucket, AWS config is going to, when you set up all of these rules, will see the bucket was changed and automatically make these resources non-compliant. And this is really, really important. I just gave you an example with the bucket, but you can always set up the rules here for any feature or any services at AWS that makes sense for your security team and makes sense for your team, in the way that you can put compliance rules when you build your workload, when you build your infrastructure at AWS. So you can set up a range of rules and you can decide in which way you want to put security in place, and AWS config automatically detect all of these change resources in case something is not as it expected, and makes these resources non-compliant. And then you can always integrate with some alerting. You can integrate with Lambda function. You can integrate to analyze more in detail. You can integrate also with SNS topic. That's mean when you receive a service that is not compliant or feature that is not compliant, this send automatically notification in real time to your security team. So there are so many ways that you can do it, but I'm not going to go through this because it's really another topic and it's really detailed. And another service is Amazon CloudWatch events. Is something that you can configure to trigger an alert for your saving. For example, I'm going to connect always with S3 bucket. You are receiving a new object in this S3 bucket, and this is just an example. You create more and more events related to different services, and you can say, for example, when auto scaling group also is changing, and or for example when you are hitting on Lambda function. So there are some possibility that you can set up and integrate with other services that this service is basically delivers in near real-time stream to system events and describes all of these changes. All right, and as I said before, this is the last services that is related, let's say, that I'm going to explain today before I'm going to some real examples, some real threats, what is going on in application, is AWS Security Hub. Remember what I said in some previous slides is we have so many data sets, and sometimes 90% of these are not analyzed, and we have difficult to prioritize what is important for us. This is why Amazon Security Hub comes in. If you look at the border spectrum, all of these services that I already talked before, Inspector, Amazon GuardDuty, Messy, Config, and other services that probably are not mentioning here. And for all of your threat that is happening, and that at this level, let's say, all of these threats that are captured by these services that are happening basically in your accounts. So security is security help is where you are doing you're analyzing the threats, making sure you are only focusing on like what is the high priority, or detect threats like, for example, you are going to collect 10 different things, but only 2 of them are high priority, and the other 8 are of course there are alerts, but are just noise, that are they are not really high priority, maybe you can see later. So this is why guard duty comes here, so you can build some pattern when you can say, okay, give me the most important alerts that are coming from different services finding, security finding, and I'm going to prioritize, and just 2 of them are most important when the security can make action before the threats happening. So you can just prioritize all the security finding that's happening from different resources. All right, and I want to go to a second phase of presentation now that I just explained it all, some security services, how it's work, but now how the attack life cycle happen generally when someone is going to threat or someone is going to enter in your infrastructure. So there are some different stages. And if you look at the different stages for what an attacker from outside is looking, they're trying to attack in your account right there in so many ways. If you see, the first stage here is reconnaissance, where people, are getting sense of, what services are exposed with your AWS accounts, remember what I said before. For example, if you have SSH port open to the world, this is one way that the attacker can see. Or you have a public S3 bucket. This is a really great example when the attacker always can see as a, let's say, environment that is already exposed to the internet. So all of the services that are exposed to the internet, the attacker are doing like a list of these services, and this is what's happening in this phase. In the second phase is establish a foothold. What this mean? So they already know what all of these services and all of the feature are exposed to the internet. In this phase, they are going to break into your account. They are already entering in your account and gain some access through, for example, one example should be security group in your EC2 instance. And they are already inside of EC2 instance. In the third phase, basically is escalate the privilege. And this is when the attacker are inside of the EC2 instance and they're trying to change the permission of the EC2 instance, or probably you have, let's say you have access in S3 bucket to this, and they're going to put the star to have access in S3 bucket. And in this case, they're going to change more and more and more services. And in the fourth stage is internal reconnaissance. That's mean where now they have kind of like all-star access, and what they do next is they rate all of these services really to gain access to even better and better and better, and how they can create backdoors for themselves. So even to realize that hacker had got in your block in particular, or whatever it is. So they're trying to analyze your infrastructure inside. And the last one basically is maintain the persistence. Like we are going, so the attacker are going to building a backdoors for themselves. It's to maintain and persist in connection with your ecosystem, with your infrastructure, with your workloads. So if you see at the broader this picture, you can see in any phase there are different way of attacker. There are different example on each of these phase. I'm not going through all of them in today, but if you see, for example, in the first place, you can see RDP brute force attack. RDP basically brute force is when when you are trying to access the password and you are putting a different password in the way that you can get access to this one. Or for example, in the fourth stage, like getting all the instances opportunity that have different stages, they have already by scratching the surface of what they are going to do, and all of this finding, like this example are caught out in the web services. So this is why it's so important, what I said before, to enable guard duty as a service that can track all of this, what is going on in all layers, to detect the threat that is happening from attacker outside around there. And if you see, so I'm going just to give you, an example of simple infrastructure or simple workloads in AWS when you have a web server and you have also a bucket internet gateway. And you can see here in this workload or in this infrastructure, there is no web application protection. That's mean we don't have a WAF enable in this case, or we don't have a shield enable that protect our application or some other services. But or web server is exposed to the internet. And also no segmentation between layers. That's mean we can see web server and also application data service is in the same layer of the VPC. And it's really important when you set up, especially tie infrastructure, you have to have different layer of security in different subnets and different also security group, because if the attacker is going to enter in one security group in one instance, they are having access to all layers, and they are having access also to your to your database that you have most critical data stored there. And also you can see is used only one AWS accounts when it comes to the compliance and critical and enterprise. Always it's good to have multiple AWS accounts. For example, you have to have separate your workload in dev account, and production should be isolated in another AWS account somewhere else with more security practices in place. And you can see also all the permission are granted. That's mean you don't have any IAM role that protect the EC2 instance, or you can see also probably the EC2 instance have full access to S3 buckets. So you have to set up some some right permission around that. And also sensitive data not encrypted. Probably we have an S3 bucket that is encryption it's not enabled. And I just didn't mention we have also service at AWS that is managed by managed service that you can encrypt the data also, like it's called KMS. Um, in case you want to protect your data in S3 bucket or database or whatever service that makes sense for your workloads. And the last one, you can see also in this no login monitoring, so you don't have enabled any monitoring in place like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, VPC Flow Log, or all of these. So what I wanted to show this is because if you don't have all of these steps in place, the threatening is very easy to happen, and some people from outside it's going very, very easily into your infrastructure, into your AWS accounts. So now remember what I said, if all of these steps is missing, what is going to happen in your AWS accounts? So basically in the first place, you know, there is some attacker or bad people around there in the internet there. They are trying to understand how they can get access, how they can gain access in your workload, in your infrastructure. And when the web server is public exposed, is quite easy for them to enter, let's say, into your application. And then when they are in your application, they can go easily also because it's at the same level. You see here we have the same subnet. They can go easily in your application server or your database because became secure group in the same subnet. So this is why it's important to have segmentation. And also once they have access to your EC2 instance, they are going easily to have access also to your bucket. In case you are storing all the statics contents to your bucket, they can easily delete it, and your website is going down very easily. So and probably if you don't have also replication of the data, you are losing all the statics data, and this is really, really bad for you and for your customers and and if your customers don't trust you, you can lose this customer, you know. And once they have also, let's say, the permission to this bug, they're going to change all the permission. If you have some data backup, they're going completely to remove it and to probably remove S3 package itself as well. And also they can download, if you have sensitive data, in this case, they can download all of this data and then can remove the data from the bucket. So there are so many ways why that the people outside from there can attack and can enter in your infrastructure. And this is why it's so important, let's say, to detect and to enable all those security and follow the best practices when you build and deploy infrastructure at AWS. So so what happened in general is there are three phases in general. Is the first phase when the attack happened, and when you have enabled all the security and you have all security in place, is the second phase, that is detect and investigation. And remember, the last one is a response. So you are detecting, you have all of this security finding, but you want to make some action. And it's good always to have some services in place that you can put automatically solution in the way that if something happen, automatically is going to change your configuration of resources in the way. But in case you don't have all of this automation in place, you can have also manual, or someone from security team, when they find the security problems, they can go and change let's say when security finding happening in this place. And you can see also here we have, for example, in the last phase we have a lambda function. When lambda function, for example, get all of this alert and say, okay, I found some detection from some services that are coming from the first place attacker. Lambda function detect this and send a notification automatically, to SNS topic, and you can enable probably via email to security team, and security team is going automatically to do this change. But you can have also automation in place. So this is all of my presentation today about security. I hope you really enjoyed and learned something new. Thank you so much, and I'm waiting for some question. Ganesh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, so I was muted. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So we have a question. So he's here. Can you
Yeah,
tell a few words on AWS Detective? It takes as an input guard duty findings, right? Thanks. So you can see on the screen. The question is on the
yeah, I can
screen
see.
now.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
see it. Yes, exactly. So, as I explained before, Amazon Detective, when you enable this service, it's going to analyze the problem in the root, so you can understand in details what is going on, how all of this security finding happening. And you can always also enable integrate with guard duty finding. Yes, thank you, Ale. Dali. Thank you for your question.
All right. So we will wait for a couple of moments to answer your questions. If you have any questions, write in the chat. So
Yeah.
yeah. So let me add some music.
And I wanted also, uh, I have my Medium link in case you want to check some of the past. And And
Yes.
also, I thank you.
Yes. So I have shared the Zamira's Medium channel link in the chat. So if you are interested, you can open the link and ready to follow her. And the Twitter is here. Let me add. Is this
Yeah,
in the
and
captions?
yeah, and in case probably you know, there are not some questions today. In case you want to ask me for in detail, please also connect with me via Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm always available to support and help.
Yes. Maybe I can do something better for you directly here. Twitter at Zami. That's it. La, 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 la. Okay, so it's on the screen now. You can see Twitter. Zamira is on the screen, so you can open Zamira Jaupaj, which is in English. Zamira Jaupaj in Italiano, giusto? Zami.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for attending the session. So I would like to add a few more words before closing the session. So we are on social media, so you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, also on the Slack. So you can join the Slack group, so we can chat together. If you have any questions in terms of technical, ask me anything. I'll try to help you in a better way. And thank you all. That's it for today. And if you have any topics, if you're interested to have more topics, another sessions in the future, so you can write me from the LinkedIn or directly from the meetup group, meetup channel. So we have a question finally. Okay, so let me open on the screen. It's here.
Okay. I see from Shiva what are the best practices for security, the credentials that are being called in the code. Uh, yeah, if you are talking about, security credential in general, for example, for database, and you want to invoke the Lambda function to get all of these credentials from database, I will always suggest to use a secret manager. Is a service on AWS that you can store the credential there, and you can do also rotation, and you can also encrypt the credential in secret manager in the way that you don't put any credential in the code itself, or probably you store in database.
All right. So I think Zamira was answered your question. So let's wait for another 1 minute, Zami, so that we can have some questions from the viewers. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining today. So if you have any, if you miss to write questions at the moment, you can also write later. Don't worry. Have a good day. Happy weekend. Thanks again, Zami, for joining the session with AWS User Group Malta, and looking forward to host another event in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone that joined today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Ganesh, inviting me. It's really pleasure to be here today. And please don't hesitate if you want to do it again in the future. Definitely, I will be super happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, everyone. Bye.